Welcome back to Media Madness. I'm Thomas, and you're stuck with me for the remainder of the week because Natalie's out of town. If you were on Twitter at all Friday night, you may have noticed liberals doing the proverbial haka in celebration of what they thought was Trump's death. Trump had been absent from the public eye for, I believe, all of 48 hours, which opened the floodgates for liberals to grasp onto any source of hope they could find because, understandably, they have very little these days. Now, this was totally ridiculous, not only to everyone with common sense because it was so baseless, but especially to us at the Daily Caller. Quite literally hours before this discourse broke out, Reagan Reese, our White House correspondent, had just wrapped an hour-long interview with the president in the Oval Office, and she reported that he seemed perfectly fine. So join me in sampling some of the copium, if you will, from the weekend, starting with David Pakman, the premier pundit on the left.
Trump alive right now? I don't think I'm asking the question literally. I mean, he probably is. But where is Trump? Donald Trump has not been seen publicly for 3 days on video since that disaster cabinet meeting from Tuesday. I put out a tweet. I put out a a Blue Sky post, a Substack note earlier saying, has anyone seen Donald Trump on video over the last 3 days? I looked through all of the replies and there is no video of Donald Trump from the last 3 days. The White House put out a tweet with a picture of Trump in the Oval Office because of some new knick-knack or tchotchke that they have in there. But of course, that picture could be from any time. Donald Trump's Truth Social account put out a couple of posts. Of course, these could have been written by anybody. And at least one of them strangely uses the M dash, typically associated with ChatGPT writing. Another one uses the word literally, not something that Donald Trump does in his Truth Social posts. And then we have news of the temporary flight.
Just look into David Pakman's desperate eyes. I mean, he's resorted to Always Sunny in Philadelphia corkboard level insanity here. The use of the M dash as evidence that ChatGPT is being employed on Truth Social in lieu of Trump. The use of literally, which according to Pakman is decidedly not Trumpian behavior. It's just so ridiculous. It's such a reach, man. Now, there was another element to this that added fuel to this speculation this week, as we'll see from this guy Ring of Fire, who apparently has 1 million followers, this very gnomish-looking character. So let's see what he has to say.
And what made it worse is that the night before, an interview aired with J.D. Vance where he talked about the fact that I've gotten a lot of job training. I'm ready to take over as president of the United States, should that be necessary. But Trump's in great health, he insisted. And when he insisted that, and then everybody's like, well, we haven't seen him for a couple days. And J.D. Vance is over here talking about, I'm ready. Here we go. Put me in, coach. Obviously, there's got to be speculation. But then again, lots of people's hopes were dashed when Trump emerged Saturday morning. However, the man looked like death. I mean, he absolutely looked like he was on his last leg. He did not look healthy. He did not look happy. He did not look like somebody that you think is going to continue making it for another 3.5 years as president. So
I can't take this guy seriously. Now, Trump has bad pictures, definitely, but I have a hard time taking this take seriously because I've heard it for probably 9 years now, that Trump looks terrible, he's eaten too much McDonald's, that he's on death's door, and it just hasn't been true. But the main thing I want to talk about is the J.D. Vance interview with USA Today last week, which is so often cited in these conversations about Trump's imminent demise. And let's actually watch the interview in question to see how strange this comment from Vance really is. So here's the question.
As vice president, you're a heartbeat away from the presidency, and your boss is one of the oldest people to ever be sworn into office. You're one of the youngest people to ever be second in line. Are you ready to assume the role of commander-in-chief, and why should Americans trust you to lead the country?
Well, I've gotten a lot of good on-the-job training over the last 200 days, but also say that the president is in incredibly good health. He's got incredible energy. And while most of the people who work around the president of the United States are younger than he is, I think that we find that he actually is the last person who goes to sleep. He's the last person making phone calls at night, and he's the first person who wakes up and the first person making phone calls in the morning. So yes, things can always happen. Yes, terrible tragedies happen, but I feel very confident the President of the United States is in good shape, is going to serve out the remainder of his term and do great things for the American people. And if, God forbid, there's a terrible tragedy, I can't think of better on-the-job training than what I've gotten over the last 200 days.
What does Usha think about your
Such a concerning remark from Vice President Vance. I mean, they asked him the question. It's not like he came out unprompted and said this out of the blue. I'm really not sure how else liberals expect him to answer this question. To me, it's not really indicative of anything concerning. I just don't know why they're heaping so much attention onto this comment in particular. It seems very innocuous and like a very normal answer in response to being the vice president of an old guy. Now, despite these rumors having been thoroughly dispelled, it really riled up Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project and his block-headed homunculus. Now, in the wake of these rumors, Rick makes this very impassioned speech about the Trump movement post-Trump and how it's doomed to fail, and how he's very excited for this. He even references the Hunger Games, as the left is ought to do. They love movies.
You notice this, right, folks? He's on the Sunday shows. He's on talk radio. He's talking to podcasters. He's going to Union Station with Stephen Miller.
Right now, he's describing how the vice president is visible to the media and how this indicates that he's jonesing to jump in there and become president. Let's keep going.
Oberduschenführer Stephen Miller and with Pete Hegseth. He's out there being president. Vance is preparing to become president. He cut a deal with Elon so that Elon wouldn't start a third party this week. Vance is preparing to become president. Here's the fun part about Vance becoming president. Let's just say tomorrow the final McNugget lodges in Donald Trump's foul throat and it's over.
This
JD
guy's
Vance,
a genius.
at that moment, begins the Hunger Games. He may be president at that moment. He may have Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and a bunch of other billionaires behind him at that moment. Let me tell you who's going to f him. Every other Republican with a pulse. Starting with Coakley and Slow Eric, the Trump boys, who have developed an amazing grift. They want that grift to go on forever. So one of them, most likely Don Jr., will immediately say, yeah, JD was okay, but he really wasn't the kind of guy my dad wanted for his successor. Marco Rubio is already spending time in D.C., because we hear Marco, because you're not that discreet, whispering to people like, well, you know, it was JD who fucked up the Russia deal. Trump almost had it, but JD fucked it up. These guys are going to be like rats in a bucket. They're going to eat each other alive. And believe me, folks, there are so many more of them who want to be president that when the bottle gets uncorked, they're going to spend the period between the day Trump shuffles off this mortal coil and the primary tearing him a giant new asshole.
That was really inspiring, Rick, and it was especially badass because he swore a lot during that monologue. I don't know why Trump's hand is bruising so often. I don't know why his ankles are a little thicker than normal, but I do get the sense that the left is trying fate a bit with this. Maybe as a consequence, Sotomayor will drop dead during her interview with The View next week, which we will be covering. Aside from that, that's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed your Labor Day weekend, and please check out the full transcript of our interview with President Donald Trump, which I'll have our social media team link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please demonstrate it by liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.